What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got a video today. I'm making a video for a couple reasons. I want to talk a little bit about the coaching staff changes. Also, there is a bit more on the Watson situation that I want to talk about. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive right in. I am still gonna try and make I haven't made a video yet on just a quick sum up of the season in general, right? Talk a little bit about the overall NFL season and then also the Dolphins season. So I am still going to make a video soon about that, just to kind of touch on, a little bit there. Status of the team, how they did, obviously I'm going to talk full circumstances, right? So I'm not going to just tell you about the good things that happened. I'm not going to just tell you about Xavier Howard's 10 interceptions and, the flashes of dominance from the defense and the flashes from Tua, right? Like, I'm not going to just tell you about that. I'm going to tell you, and the 10 wins that they got, right? Like, I'm going to tell you the good things and also, the concerning things. So we'll get to that. Let's go ahead and dive into this right now. So, first thing I want to mention is the Dolphins are still looking for an offensive coordinator. They have not yet found one, but they have made some other adjustments to their staff, right? So also, as we know, not only did Chan Gailey leave the offensive coordinator, but they also changed offensive line coaches yet again. So now this is like the fourth or fifth offensive line coach that Brian Flores has had. Remember, because in his first season, he brought a dude in, fired him 2 weeks into training camp, got another guy, so that's two. Then that guy got fired. Another guy got brought in this offseason. He left. Okay, so that was three, so that's four. This is going to now be the fifth, if I'm not mistaken. I think I got that count correctly. Either way, 4 or 5 offensive line coaches in just 2 years, well, going into year 3, that's crazy. But anyway, so get into that. One position the Dolphins did fill this week was that of offensive line coach, with 2020 assistant Lemuel Jean-Pierre taking over for Steve Marshall after another mutual parting of the ways. So look, let me just finish this real quick, actually. Marshall's departure wasn't totally unexpected, given that he was brought onto the staff last year to work with Gailey, with whom he had a prior working relationship from their time with the New York Jets. Jean-Pierre's promotion gives the Dolphins a young position coach who also recently played in the NFL, two factors that should help him relate very well to the players. Maybe, and that's definitely good, right? Like, you got to be able to relate to the players as a coach. I do think that's important. However, you also got to be a good coach, right? So I don't know, this dude doesn't have a ton of experience, right? He is just a young guy, and we'll see that with another one of their hires as well. But and it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I don't know, right? It's hard to know, right? Because some of these guys don't really have a lot of experience. They're young, etc., etc. I hope that they do well. Here's what I will say, though. They haven't, so far going into year 3, they've had like almost no consistency, both on the roster and in the coaching staff. The amount of change is not good. You got to have consistency. You got to be able to build chemistry, etc., build culture, etc., 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 right? So I'm not a fan of constantly changing. That was part of what made Ryan Tannehill's time with this team not work out either, if we're keeping it real, right? It was the lack of offensive line, the lack of weapons, lack of defense, and constantly changing within the coaching staff, right? So I think that they need to get it straight. I think having 4 or 5 offensive line coaches in the first couple years is not a good sign. They haven't really so far. Pretty much every coaching staff position. I'm not 100% on this, and I don't think it's 100% of the positions, because there are obviously lots of, assistant positions and stuff like that as well, and like quality control coaches and shit like that, right? So that aren't necessarily position coaches. So I'm sure there have been some carryovers, but the vast majority of the coaching staff is just churning so far in the first couple years, and that's not good. And so far they haven't been particularly good at their hires, even by their own admission, right? That's why they fired guys. Them firing them is saying, hey, we made the mistake and brought in the wrong guy to begin with. Okay, but then you fired the next guy and the next guy, or they left. That's another thing is I don't know, this is just speculation, and this is just what I'm picking up based off of the overall data with the way that coaches are just fucking like dip-setting out of here, right? Because a lot of them are leaving for coaching jobs that were exactly the same, just in a different place, or they're leaving because, they're friends with a guy that got fired, or, there were even a couple examples, one or two examples where they took a lesser job. That was last offseason, right? And the fact that they don't want to be here, players have shown a disinterest in wanting to be here. So there, all of that's concerning, especially when you continue to change over, right? That consistency, players and people are going to take notice of that, and so on and so forth. So they need to find some consistency, and they need to get a good coaching staff. And so far, to me, they do not seem to be I don't know, like able to. I don't think, just the same thing with their player evaluations. I just don't think that they're very good at it. I don't think that they know what the fuck they're doing. And I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But I have massive concerns with it, right? So, but let's continue on, because there is definitely a good amount more to get into, especially with the next hire that the Dolphins made. All right, so the Dolphins just also filled their quarterbacks coach spot, because they needed to fill that spot. That was another vacancy, right? So, and there are multiple sources reporting on their hire. So let me get to that and some information about this guy. So the Miami Dolphins continue their offseason pursuit to build around quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, at least as of right now, as they hired Central Michigan offensive coordinator Charlie Fry as their new quarterbacks coach Saturday. Okay, and from what I can tell, that's really all of his experience. He has a few years in the NFL as a quarterback, but his record there is not very good. So, I mean, again, look, it's a young guy. He doesn't have a lot of experience. And look, I don't know this dude's future. I don't know him. I don't know his capabilities. Same thing with Jean-Pierre, right? And so maybe they will be excellent coaches. Maybe they'll have a good long career, etc., etc. Personally, the vibes that I get, the evaluation that I have, the perspective that I have based off of the data and information available to me is that the mix of things that they're doing are not going to work out, right? Especially with the lack of consistency, with the way that things change and turn over so much. Their coaching decisions, their hires, and their player evaluations have been pretty garbage to this point. Obviously they had a super shit season in year one. They on its face they had a good season last year, certainly with the 10-6 record. But I think personally that's more of an aberration than what's really at play here, and due to extenuating circumstances that wouldn't otherwise exist. So I have my concerns, and I hope that some of this guy in particular, a young coach with not much experience, can certainly prove that he is, worth the opportunity, etc. So let's see. Fry was a key assistant working with Tagovailoa during the Elite 11 high school quarterback camp that helped the young quarterback burst onto the national scene. I guess that's cool. Like, you know, there are going to be people that make like this big deal about, oh, he helped Tua and blah, blah. Yeah, but bro, it was the Elite 11 high school quarterback camp. Like, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares, right? Like, everybody talks about how Tua performed in college, and they're like, look, he was a superstar, so he's going to automatically be a superstar in the NFL. No, dude, it's a completely different animal. Completely different animal. How many times have we seen it? It doesn't necessarily translate. They got to get used to it. They got to fucking, you know, get used to the lifestyle, blah, 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 blah. They got to learn the playbooks, learn defenses, blah, 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 blah. There's so much, and it doesn't necessarily translate. It's a completely different monster. So having said that, you go back to high school and a high school quarterback camp. Frankly, look, I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck. It's cool, I guess. Like, it's fun. But what relevance does that really fucking have? You hired the dude because he worked with your quarterback when he was in a quarterback camp? Right? Because, like, okay, look. When Adam Gase brought in Jay Cutler, right, I actually didn't really agree with it. I would have brought in Colin Kaepernick. But because that was obviously not going to happen because of the various different factors involved, including the fact that every single owner of an NFL team is a racist piece of shit, but multiple factors influenced that, and so it wouldn't happen, right? But part of the reasoning is that they have a familiarity with each other, and it makes sense because they literally work together in the NFL. Gase coached him in the NFL and actually helped him produce one of his best seasons, right? So prior to being with the Dolphins. So it makes, you know, sense. This connection between Fry and Tua, I'm just keeping it real with you, I frankly don't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't mean shit. He worked with him one time in a quarterback camp fucking years ago. Okay, sure, he then propelled to... But he's a talented kid. That's never been the issue. The issue with him is his size, his durability, and, at this point, the circumstance that he's been put into. Right? A lot of people are shitting on Tua because he didn't perform like a superstar. Right? First of all, during the season, everybody was all like, Tua, he's our guy. We just got to have him in. And then fucking, oh, but look at those great performances that he had, even though it wasn't really true. Now a lot of people are being like, oh, he didn't perform all that well, as we continue to analyze and realize in hindsight that he didn't actually perform that well, but it's not his fault. He's a rookie. He doesn't know the entire playbook or have chemistry with his playmakers. He doesn't really have all that great of an offensive line. He doesn't have, you know, skill players and so on and so forth. Not to mention the whole fucked up nature of the season to begin with because of COVID, etc. Right? So, it's not his fault. He's just being put into a bad situation. But his concerns are his size and his durability, not his ability, right? But anyway, so this guy fucking worked with him in quarterback camp, cool. And a nod to how valuable the experience was to him, Tagovailoa later hired Elite 11 head coach Trent Dilfer as his personal coach during his NFL pre-draft process. That's also cool, but it's also Trent Dilfer. So it's wonderful that Trent Dilfer, worked at that quarterback's coach or camp, and maybe he put it on. Maybe that's Dilfer's thing. Maybe that's his quarterback camp. I don't know. And Trent Dilfer was a great quarterback, but that's the thing, is Trent Dilfer is a great quarterback. So that's why you go to that guy. You don't go to that guy and get, advice from him because he has the quarterback camp. You do it because, and as a matter of fact, he has the camp if it is his. I'm not really sure, to be honest. But if that's Trent Dilfer's quarterback camp and he runs Elite 11, then he has that camp because of who he is as a player and was as a player, right? So just to keep that clear, I'm sure Tagovailoa loved the camp, but let's be honest and let's be clear that he went to Dilfer because of who Dilfer is. It also likely has something to do with the fact that he did have some sort of connection to him, right? So he didn't yet have a connection to Dan Marino at the time, but now that he does, my guess is if he needed fucking advice from a quarterback, he's probably going to go tap Dan Marino, because Dan Marino's better, in my opinion, and also because he's in close proximity and he has that connection to him, right? Now that he plays for the Dolphins. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. Fry will replace quarterbacks coach Robbie Brown, who is out despite having time left on his contract. Brown becomes the third known offensive assistant to leave, joining Chan Gailey, who resigned as offensive coordinator earlier this month, and offensive line coach Steve Marshall, who also is out despite having time left on his contract. I mean, see, I'm sorry, but those things are not, they don't spell good things for the future to me. Yeah, so Brown and Marshall have both been hired by the Dolphins after Gailey had vouched for them. Tight end coach George Godsey took over quarterback coach responsibilities in the second half of the season, an early sign that the Dolphins were ready to make a change at the position. There were other factors that went into that, but okay, including the fact that, coaches had gotten fucking COVID and so on and so forth. Miami continues to build around Tagovailoa, at least as of now, who is coming off an uneven rookie season but has received strong public support from Coach Brian Flores and General Manager Chris Greer in recent weeks amid speculation and criticism. Okay, I want to point out, it literally means absolutely fucking nothing. Especially with these guys. They've proven it, right? Like, it doesn't mean anything, period, with coaches or GMs in the league at all, right? They can say one thing today and do a completely other thing tomorrow. That's every team, every GM, every coach in the league, because it's a business. And they just got to do whatever's best for business, quote unquote, right? So let's not mistake that. But these guys have proven that. Let's see. One example is they literally told Laramie Tunsil, to his face, hey, we're not going to trade you. Again, it's irrelevant, his opinion on whether he would have taken the trade or not. I don't care that Laramie Tunsil said, oh, I would have taken that trade for me too, right? I don't care. It's irrelevant. I'm glad he thought it was a good trade. I think the Dolphins lost that trade, to be honest, but I'm glad he thought it was a good trade, irrelevant to the fact that they straight up lied to the dude. They told him he was just not going to be traded, flat out not going to be traded, and then they traded him, right? And why though? Because it's in the best interest of the business, right? Blah, 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 bullshit. So they can say that all they fucking want, right? But even with the quarterback situation, right? Brian Flores made comments about, after the 49ers game, he had made comments about, why would I put Tua in when, what is he going to do for garbage time? I don't really see any point. And then he did it literally the following week against the Jets. Completely 180'd that shit and did the exact opposite of what he said, right? Blah, 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 right? So it's pretty clear that really literally means absolutely nothing. If they fucking find an opportunity that is fucking, and we're going to actually get into more of the Watson stuff in a minute, but let's say Watson, right? And everybody's like, oh, if Houston doesn't want to trade Watson, then, they don't have to, and he'll just stay there and blah, 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 right? And no, Watson has 100% power and leverage in that situation because of the no trade clause. If he tells them, I'm not playing for you guys, I will retire, there's literally absolutely nothing that they can do about that. Now, okay, sure, he doesn't get paid, for the rest of his contract, right? Because he's not playing it out. He's retiring instead, which ultimately cancels his contract, to my knowledge, right? I'm not an expert on all these things, but I'm pretty sure that's how it plays out. So there is that. However, if he retires, he can always then just come right back, because there will certainly be teams that would fucking sign him unquestionably for a large amount of money. So he has 100% of the fucking power in this situation. He can say, fuck you guys, I am literally not playing for you. In which case, they can either just let him retire and then go sign somewhere else, in which case they lose him. Sure, they lose that cap hit, but then they also don't get anything for him. So the Texans understand that if it comes down to Watson saying, look, I'm just not playing for you guys, they're going to have to fucking trade him. Now, the question then is what are they going to get for him? We're going to get more into this in a minute, but there seems to be two spots that he wants to go. Either the Dolphins or the Jets. Both teams have ample resources to do so. They both have a quarterback, Sam Darnold and Tua Tagovailoa, which would likely be part of the trade, and also a ton of draft capital to get rid of. Now, in my opinion, the Dolphins situation would be better for the Texans because, in my opinion, Tua is the better quarterback out of those two. He's also younger and has more upside, in my opinion, right? So, but additionally, they could get, realistically, they could get the 3rd overall pick from this year. They could get the Dolphins' 18th overall pick. They could also get the 2nd round pick that the Texans gave us this season, and then a 1st round pick from next year, and possibly even one from the following year. So there is a substantial possibility / probability that the Dolphins can end up giving up Tua and like 3 or 4 1st round picks and maybe 1 or 2 2nd round picks in total to trade for Watson. Anyway, real quick, let's see. Let's just finish this up because a lot of that was to say that it doesn't matter that they said, we're gonna stick with Tua. That obviously could change. The Fry move is another example of the team trying to put Tagovailoa in a comfortable situation entering year 2. Maybe, perhaps. Again, the connection is super thin. So we'll see how much that actually matters or if it, works out in their favor, but we'll see. Anyway, Fry, 39, spent 5 years as an NFL quarterback, mostly notably with the Cleveland Browns. He spent the past 2 seasons as Central Michigan's offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. The Dolphins, who are coaching the Senior Bowl this week, have yet to officially name an offensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. So real quick, I looked him up a little bit, so just because I wanted to see, right? So he played 3 years for the Browns. So first of all, he's part of that long list of Browns quarterbacks that they've been trying to fucking, find an answer with, right? Because obviously everybody believes that quarterback is just the most important position. It's important for sure, but again, no quarterback can do anything without an offensive line or playmakers or blah, blah, blah. Yes, I get it. The quarterback touches the ball every single snap. But if I'm keeping it honest, that really, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to figure out, think of how to say this. It really doesn't matter. I get that, but even average quarterbacks can fucking, accept the snap and fucking, blah, 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 throw it, right? I know, right? You want the best of the best. I get it. But you don't have to, you just need a competent guy that can make good decisions and make all the throws. You don't have to have the superstar that can do absolutely fucking everything, and even the superstars still need people to throw to, etc., etc. So while it's true that 100% of the snaps the ball's touched by the quarterback, also the center, by the way. So is the center the most important position on the team? That's an interesting argument. But anyway, but then, and then sure, it gets spread out from there, but over the course of a season, over the course of a game, over the course of a franchise and the things that they do, those skill position players that touch the ball, those receivers, those running backs, those tight ends are just as important, right? Anyway, but he's part of that long list, right? Because in 2005, this was, they had, Bernie Kosar in the early 90s, right? Then Testaverde for a couple seasons. Then Tim Couch and Doug Peterson for a few seasons. Kelly Holcomb, Jeff Garcia. Then they had Trent Dilfer in 2005, who started 11 games. They drafted Charlie Fry. He was their backup, but played 5 games. Then in 2006, he played 13 with Derek Anderson as his backup. And then he went back to being a backup and only played 1 game in 2007 before moving on from there, went to the Seattle Seahawks, got traded to the Seattle Seahawks for a 6th round pick. He was also a 3rd rounder, by the way. And then after that, he went to the Oakland Raiders for a short time. And then obviously from there, he left the NFL, went to Central Michigan, was two seasons there as their offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Now, Central Michigan, I don't really know a lot about that school, but it's not Michigan, right? As far as I know, it's not. I'm not super big on college. I don't really watch a lot of it, but I'm pretty sure it's not the same as like the top Michigan school, which just as far as I know goes by Michigan or University of Michigan. Anyway, but I probably should fucking at least have Michigan Wolverines, right? Yeah, the Spartans and Wolverines. Those are the 2 top. Anyway, whatever. You get the point. But so he doesn't have a lot of experience, and his NFL time wasn't, the hottest. So we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully, the familiarity does help with Tua and all that stuff. He did get to play with Trent Dilfer and obviously work with him in that quarterbacks coach camp. So we'll see how it plays out. I do have my concerns again with, their hires overall and so on and so forth. But yeah. Oh, and then so I'm sorry. There is more though to talk about because I do want to talk about the Watson situation. Because that is getting more interesting. So there's reports today that Deshaun Watson prefers the move to the Jets over the Dolphins. Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson reportedly favors the trade to the Jets rather than the Dolphins. According to Salguero of the Herald, Watson has told people he wants to move to the AFC East, and while the Jets and Dolphins both interest him, the Jets are atop his list of potential landing spots. Watson's preference largely has to do with New York's hiring of Robert Saleh. So apparently he prefers Saleh to Flores as its new coach. But he has said good things about Flores, to be fair. Watson is reportedly such a big fan of Saleh that he wanted the Texans to target him for their head coaching vacancy. The speculation regarding a potential Watson trade has built up over the past 2 weeks because of an apparent lack of trust between Watson and the Texans. Schefter was one of many who reported Watson's unhappiness when they hired former New England Patriots executive Nick Caserio as its GM. It's unclear if the relationship between Watson and Texans can be repaired should the team hire the head coach he favors, but it can't be fixed. But if it can't, the Jets make sense as a landing spot. New York hasn't reached the playoffs since 2010 and hasn't had a winning record since 2015, and an elite quarterback such as Watson could change that. So, look, that does make this situation a lot more interesting, and it's hard to call, right? Because think about that. Then if Josh Allen is in Buffalo, then you have Deshaun Watson in New York with the Jets, if that was to happen with, the hiring of Robert Saleh, who's, a big name on that list this offseason for hires, right? And obviously got hired. And then, Bill Belichick is still in New England, right? We'll see how that plays out. But so, and then all of these questions with Tua, going forward, not to mention their offensive line needs a lot more work. Their skill position player rooms still need a lot more work. And the defense still needs a good bit more work as well. So, is Stephen Ross going to be okay with Watson being in the AFC East, but a part of the Jets, right? And again, frankly, I think that the Dolphins do have the more appealing offer. The Jets do have the 2nd overall pick, to be clear, but the Dolphins have the 3rd overall pick, one after that, as well as the 18th overall pick. And then, they could easily get 3 or 4 first-round picks plus from the Dolphins, including Tua, who I believe to be the better of the 2 quarterbacks in those situations. So, it does make it interesting. Does that put the pressure on the Dolphins to get the deal done? Not to mention there are going to be plenty of teams inquiring about Watson. So with all these different factors, does that put the pressure on the Dolphins to actually get it done and in fact cave to a large price tag? Obviously we'll have to wait and see. So far they've been telling everybody that they're sticking with Tua, but there are, things can absolutely fucking change in the snap of a finger. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out going forward, but it is going to be fascinating, and as things do continue to develop, we will discuss it, and I will make a video about it. Alright, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts, share my channel and videos with your friends and family, leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro, and with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.